record, share, that, boom. All right. Oh, I forgot to import the document. My bad. But I'm just going to keep recording because I don't care. Import. Desktop. What are you guys laughing about back there, you crazy kids? Yes. So yeah, in the past, I've had students, I write the problem, I type it on the board, and then I have students copy it down. Very inefficient use of time. So go ahead and take a moment and read problem one, and then we'll talk about the gist. And when you're done reading it, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. So you can read it on the TV or on the paper in front of you. They're the same. Okay, so that's enough time for you to read a few sentences, right? But the first and most critical question is this: what are we trying to figure out?
How many students are in the vans and buses?
That's it. How many students can a van hold and how many students can a bus hold, right? So as we do word problems, one of the most critical things you can do is just to start, just say, what am I even trying to find? And usually you're going to figure that out by reading the last sentence or two. It's usually going to be near the end of the problem. So the things that we don't know are the things that we're going to declare our variables to be. So I think that it makes sense. Some people are really married to the idea of always using X's and Y's. My take is let's use something contextually specific. Did we do any word problems back in Unit 1?
No.
I don't think we did. If we did, we didn't do a ton. So this step is step one of the four-step process, and you'll have this four-step process memorized by the time we get done with the notes. So step one is to declare your variables. Some people really hate this step, but again, I'm not too worried about that. We're going to say let, and I think V is a sensible variable. And I think that B is another sensible variable. Sometimes people don't like B's because if you struggle with handwriting, they can look like sixes, right? Do you need me to pause this? Yeah, hold on a sec. Um, again, if your B's look like sixes, then you can obviously steer away. Some people use X's and Y's for everything. I personally wouldn't use X's unless it was like number of xylophones, something like that. I think that the variables should be contextually appropriate, but you can do whatever you like. So throughout this lecture, I'm going to use variables that make sense in the context of what it is that we're trying to find. So what would we declare V to be? Let V equal what? Vans is too ambiguous. And I can tell you it's one of the most common mistakes is people do this. And then I have issue with that because van can be the weight of a van, the radius of the tire for a van. It can be the cost of fueling the van. Yes. So we want to be real specific when we declare our variables. So how about let V equal the number of people a van can hold? No one could really debate that that's pretty specific. Okay. So please do not just put V van, B bus. What's B going to be?
The number.
Right. So the number of people a bus can hold. So when we read this problem, we understand that they are filling the vans and the buses because there could be like a loophole or like something to break the problem if, the vans and the buses aren't full, then this problem can't really be solved. Like we wouldn't have enough information. But assuming that each van is full and that each bus is full, then we can actually write a system of equations. Okay. So that is step one. Do you have any questions about step one? It's called declaring your variables. It's telling the world, I'm going to use these letters and this is what they stand for. Okay, here comes step two. And step two is to write the equations that represent the situation. So could someone write me an equation for high school A? It's just a flyer shot. I mean, it's easier than maybe you think. There's going to be an equation for high school A and an equation for high school B. How much? I'm sorry, eight what?
No, 8B.
Good for you. So they filled 8 vans. So that means that there were 8 times The number of students that a van can hold. Good for you. Way to get us started. What else can you tell me about high school A? If I wanted to know how many students left from high school A to go on this county fair field trip, what would I do? What math would I do with the number of students that rode in vans and the number of students that rode in buses? I'd add them together, right? So yes, let's put a plus sign. I agree. So 14B. I couldn't agree more. Now, thank you, by the way. The thing about this is there's lots of solutions to that particular equation. Okay. If that was all I knew, then that's not enough to go on. But as you've seen in algebra, if you graph one line, there's infinitely many points on that line. But if you graph two lines, there's only going to be that one point in the middle where they cross, right? And so that's where the second situation, high school B, comes into the rescue. So Justice really got the ball rolling for us there. Someone else write me an equation for high school B. Correct. So what we have now is two situations that are, according to this problem, both factual. They both represent a linear relationship, a line. We're not going to graph them, but we do want to know where they cross. And that crossing point will tell us how many students a van holds and how many students a bus holds. And so now it's time to move on to step 3. Do you have any questions so far about step 1 or step 2? What's step 1? Declare, tell the world. What's step 2? Write a system. Write your equations. Write your system. Step 3, want to guess? Solve it. In every word problem, there comes a point where you've dealt with all the sort of housekeeping stuff, and now it's time to just flex on the math gods and say, I know how to do this. I already took a quiz on this. I've acquired this skill. You could use any one of the 3 methods. I would think that you wouldn't want to do graphing because that would be odd. And I would think that this probably is not well suited for substitution. Why?
Because you have
But why not substitution? What specifically would steer me away from substitution? Because I have freedom of choice. I don't have a variable by itself. Good answers, Josh. Exactly. I don't see any one of those 4 letters that is just screaming to me, hey, look at how easy I am to get by myself. This is elimination all the way. And I think you'll find elimination is more commonly what you wind up using, but substitution is not out. So let's think elimination and ask ourselves right now, is this ready to eliminate? Is this system ready to go? Not quite. What do we have to do? Let's just take like the bottom one by -1. I got no issues with that. You could do the top. I'm going to do the bottom one. Good. I'm going to take the top equation and I'm going to copy it down. So 8v plus 14b equals 560. And what's my new bottom equation going to be? Gorgeous. So see, we're not taking a quiz now on how to solve a system. We're using an already acquired skill to solve a word problem. Okay. And now that it's ready to eliminate, we've created a fluffer puffer. We've turned it into a level 1, if you will. Now it's time to draw the line and do what we set out to do. So if we add straight downwards, down the V column, how many V's do we get? None, right? They eliminated. How many B's do we get? And then, of course, if you wanted to use a calculator, you could. What's 560 plus -380? Positive 180. And then what do we do? Yes, we divide both sides by 5, giving us an answer that no one asked us for. That concludes, almost concludes step 3. Why don't we go ahead and make it official? Yeah, B is 36, which we kind of already know what that means, right? But why don't we, while we're here, do what we know we're supposed to do, and let's go back and also find V. Where are we going to find V from? Say again. Yeah, so you got to pick one of these equations. So how about we just take this one right here? Everybody okay with the one I just circled in green? You know how it is with elimination. You can pick any equation. We don't have a lot to choose from, but what we're going to change the b into 36 right there. And then probably going to use a calculator. So now it's going to say 8v plus, anyone know what 14 times 36 is? 288. And as always, it just boils down to basic algebra. What do we do next?
You put the 288 on the other side.
Yeah, we subtract. You can say that a lot of different ways, right? So we wind up with not quite 280. I believe it's 272. And then last step, we divide both sides by 8 and we figure out that v is, I want to say it's going to be like 38. Is that correct?
Oh, algebra probably got it.
No, something has gone catastrophically wrong here. Yeah, I was going to say 14 times 36 is not 288. Let's all go back. I trusted calculator guy back there. I should have caught that. That is my bad. So someone who going to punch buttons correctly want to tell me what 14 times 36 is?
5.
That really makes a lot more sense. I was going to say there's no way in God's green earth that there's more kids in the van than the bus. This problem is defective, but it was just someone's calculator use. So let's subtract 504 from both sides. What do we get?
50, 56.
Yeah, and then divide 56 by 8. This makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? What's 56 divided by 8? Now that makes more sense, right? So here's where we are in the problem solving process. You shouldn't be having any major issues so far. What was step 1? Declare. What's step 2? Write the system. Step 3, do the math, solve. Step 4 is critical and it's convert back into English. At no point in this problem did the problem say anything about V's and B's and systems. It just said, please answer me this darn question. Step 4 is critical. And it's like, okay, I'm out of the forest now and I'm just going to answer the question. I'm going to come back to the land of English. And the question was, how many can a van and a bus hold? So I would say something like this. I would say a van holds 7 students, comma, and a bus holds 36 students. That concludes the 4-step process. Step 1, declare the letters you're going to use to make a mess. Step 2, write a math system. Step 3, grind it out, do the work. Step 4, come back to the land of English and answer the question. Feel good? You can always check it too. You could always go back and plug them in and actually make sure it works. But let's head on to example 2. Go ahead again, take a moment, and I'll ask you the same question I asked you before after you've read question 2. Hey, what are we trying to figure out? Correct. So at the gate or the door, whatever you want to call it, when someone comes in to pay for their way into the musical, they either pay for an adult ticket or they pay for a student ticket. And I assume a student would be like the same as like a child, like if you had like a little brother or sister. So the question is, how much does each type of ticket cost? So let's declare our variables. What are some good variables that we could use here? A and S are good, right? And again, if your S's are ugly and look like 5s, you might want to steer away from that. And it's up to you. This is why we declare, because the variables that you choose are your babies. You're using them. You just want to tell us, me specifically, when I read your work, what stands for what. So I'm going to do let A equal. And what would I write for that? Now that is good. You threw the word price in there and you saved it. Good. A lot of times people again make the mistake of saying an adult ticket. I'm like, what does that mean? The size of it, the weight of it? I don't know what any of that means. So thank you for saving that. So adult ticket price. And my other variable is S.
Student ticket price.
That is student ticket price. I will not judge the letters that you use. I just need you to responsibly choose letters that you know you're capable of writing correctly. And as long as you declare them, then you and I are going to be fine. All right, step one in the books. What's step two?
Right.
Write a system. Good. Can someone give me an equation for day one of ticket sales?
14 A plus 14 equals.
So I like 14A. So they sold 14 adult tickets. And you said 14B. Can I assume you meant 14S?
Yeah.
So 14 adult tickets plus 14 student tickets equals what? That is correct. The money they earned on one kind plus the money they earned on the other kind equals the total money that they earned. What's our day two equation going to be?
14 A plus 10 S equals 230.
Correct. And I didn't mean for this to happen, but we find ourselves mathematically in a very similar situation in that, no, it's not eliminatable now, but it is very easy to fix. And I think we could just do the same trick that we did last time, right? Step one is done. Step two is done. Now it's time to grind it out. Do the math. I'm going to go ahead and take the top equation this time just to change it up and multiply by -1. So anyone watching or anyone doing this could think like, okay, so it doesn't matter, right? As long as you pick one of them. What's my new top equation going to say? Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, the bottom equation doesn't change. And then I draw my line. I'm committed now to the process. When I add my A's together, what do I get? Nothing, right? They eliminated. How many S's do I get? Yeah, and this can be scary. Sometimes someone who thinks a lot might say, oh, I must have done something wrong because there's no way that a ticket can cost like a negative amount of money or something like that. But then just be patient and wait for the right side to bail us out. What's negative 266 plus 238?
Negative 32.
No.
Oh,
Negative 28 is correct. And then we divide both sides by -4, giving us the answer to the first part, which is S equals 7. And while we're here, let's go back and find out the value of A. I'm going to go ahead and use the one I'm circling in green because I just like it. So there you go. And where am I going to put that 7? Right there. And it's going to say 14A plus 70 equals 238. Next step,
minus 70.
subtract that 70 across to the other side, and you get 168. And then divide 168 by 14, and I think you get 12. Time for step 4. And what's step 4? Answer the question, right? So we could say an adult ticket costs $12, comma, and a student ticket costs $7. Got the gist? All right. 4-step process. Let's head over to page 2. Turn your notes page over. Example 3. Real quick, give it a good skimming. What are we trying to figure out? Yeah, they're selling some pies, and we just want to know like how much did a blueberry pie cost and how much did a lemon meringue pie cost? I mean, I would dare you to tell me how this is really all that different from the ticket sales. It's not. An adult ticket is like a blueberry pie, and a student ticket's like a lemon meringue pie. Like you can write a million different versions of this problem, but it all boils down sort of to the same flow. So first off, what are our variables going to be?
I did B and L, right?
So you did let B equal what? Good. So let's do cost of blueberry pie. And what's another good one?
So,
Yeah, I would be a little leery with some of you guys in your handwriting. I might be inclined to use like M for meringue, just because L's can look a lot like ones. For those of you guys that cursive your L's like that, then it works. But if your L's look like this, it's really easy to mistake them. So let's go with M for meringue, just because it's going to be a little bit safer. So M is the cost of the lemon meringue pie. All right, step one in the book. Step two, let's write an equation. Someone give me an equation for Brenda. Equals noise. We're going to find ourselves again in a similar situation. The computer was feeling nice when it wrote these. What is Jennifer's equation?
6M equals 132.
Perfect. And we find ourselves now for the third straight time in a not quite eliminatable system, but pretty close, huh? All right, so I'm just going to take the top one and multiply it by -1. And that's going to change it into -11b minus 6m equals -216. Now, step one is done. Step two is done. Step three is what kind of we're in the midst of right now. Let's add downwards. How many b's do we get? Yes. How many m's do we get? Nothing. And what is -216 plus 132? It's negative. I'll put that down. Ochenta y cuatro. -84. And then let's divide both sides by -7. What's b? 12. All right, let's plug it back in and let's go find m. Since I'm the guy with the fake digital pen, I'm going to elect to use the one I just circled in green. I like it the bestest, so that's where I'm going. So I'm going to take that 12 and I'm going to put it right there. What's 4 times 12? Next step.
Put the 48 on the other side.
I agree, which means to subtract it. And what's 132 minus 48? Dos veces en la misma problema, 84. Otra vez. Again, we just got the number 84. This number loves the number 8. This problem loves 84. 84 is the jersey number of the great Shannon Sharp, Denver Broncos tight end. You guys don't care. Let's divide both sides by 6. And what's M? Nope. It's 14. So again, we would complete the process by writing a sentence or two. If you don't like those, your English teachers may not like my run-on sentences. Compound sentences. I don't know what those are called when you like do 2 sentences with a comma and. Yeah, an English teacher might get mad at me, but I like them, so I'm going to do them. So I'm going to say a blueberry pie. How much? 12 bones, comma, and, oh boy, and a lemon meringue. Did I spell that right? I did. I got it. I don't know if I've ever actually written the word meringue in my 51, almost 52 years. Crazy. I did it. Bless you. And a lemon meringue pie costs how much? Bam. All right, let's knock this last one out. Get her done. Obviously, we're not doing an assignment today. We'll do that tomorrow. So let's finish this last one. We got 5 minutes. Let's crush it. What are our variables? So let H equal what? The cost of a hosta. It's a type of plant. You did Google it and you'd be like, wow, that's legit. It really is a thing. And what's our other variable?
I.
Yeah, that's fine. So let I, be careful. I will someday be a number. It's the imaginary unit, the square root of -1. But since we haven't talked about it yet, we can still use it as a variable. So I is the cost of an ivy pot, or whatever you want to call it. Roy, I need a system. Give me an equation for Jill. Yes. How about an equation for Mary? 8h plus 3i equals, yes. And finally, we got a system that is not quite as mundane as the others. Which variable would you guys like to murder off? Because we are now into step 3. Would you like to kill off the hostas or the ivies? Probably a good choice. What could we turn both of the i's into? So what do you want to multiply the top by? What do you want to multiply the bottom by? 7 will not work, but -7 will. Very good. Remember, you have to make one of them the opposite of the other. All right, top equation, hustle up. What do we get? Plus equals, I'm going to say 402. Okay, bottom equation, what do we get? Negative 56h. So minus 21i equals, how about negative? 490 plus 14, 504. And then let's add them together. How many h's do we get? Negative. How many i's do we get? None. And what's our number on the other side? Yeah. And then we divide both sides by negative. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. To the rescue, h equals. Yes. And of course, now we have to go back and find I, the cost of a pot of ivy. And again, I with the pen, so I'll say I'm using this one. I like it the bestest. So I'm going to take 6 and put it in place of h right there. What's 8 times 6? Yes. Next step. Subtract that 48 from both sides, giving us 3i equals 24, I believe. Divide both sides by 3. What's I? 8. And the last thing to do would be to write a sentence. Let's make this official. A hosta costs 6 bones, and a pot of ivy costs 8 big ones. And that is that with 37 seconds to spare. Tomorrow, there will be an assignment just like this. You'll have to do the 4-step process on the word problems.